Me. Can you hear me now? În primul rând, în limba română, e o plăcere să fiu din nou în Chișinău și mulțumesc organizatorilor pentru invitație. And now to switch back in English for our foreign guests. My name is David, and I'm here to speak with you about the future of skills, if I have to use 3 words. So, powerful new forms of automation are changing the world we live in. Computer algorithms, robotics, artificial intelligence are not just increasing productivity, but also changing the way we live our lives. So there's 2 questions to ask ourselves. What will happen to our jobs in the future, and what skills will we need to perform these jobs? But before I go into responding to these questions and actually analyzing what the impact of these future technologies will be, let me take a step back and see what caused this disruption in the first place. AI, artificial intelligence, this is the technology that's been most talked about in recent years. A technology that many experts believe it's at the core of the 4th Industrial Revolution. This technology, some people say it will help us make our institutions more transparent, and other people say it will actually lead humanity to its doom. The debate, it's not just in the academic world. The debate is also in the tech community. Actually, half of the tech community believes AI is a force for good, and the other half is worried about what AI can do. So there's a debate that I can divide into optimist and pessimist when speaking about AI. If we look at the pessimists, there are people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, who believe that AI will replace humans in the workplace in the future. Elon Musk was actually quoted saying recently that artificial intelligence is the biggest threat to our existence in history. So I have to say that again. AI, according to Elon Musk, is the biggest existential threat to mankind in history. So when I heard this from my mentor, I had the similar reaction to Sophia the robot. I was first a bit, what's he talking about? And then I was actually scared, because Elon Musk, somebody I look up to, is telling us, everybody here in this room, that AI is actually potentially dangerous. Myself, I'm an optimist, so I like to think that AI is a force for good. Luckily, I'm not alone in this side of the debate. There are other optimists like myself, people like Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, founders of 2 of the biggest tech companies in the world, support a more utopian view of what AI can do. Mark Zuckerberg was quoted saying recently that AI will help us reach our full potentials as humans. He also urged us to choose hope over fear when we speak about AI. Along similar lines, Larry Page said that artificial intelligence and automation will enable us to free ourselves from boring work, to actually have more time for our families or to spend on our hobbies. However, we present here in this room today, we live in a bubble. We have access to the internet. We can follow the debate, optimist versus pessimist, on Twitter or on Facebook. Many people in today's world, in Moldova, in Romania, and in many other countries, don't have access to the internet. Billions of people. So the way they get their information is from watching movies, if they have a TV, obviously. So if they have a TV, they watch movies. And unfortunately, the science fiction area is filled with stories of movies that you all know. Terminator, I, Robot. Movies in which AI or robots are always portrayed in the bad light. The robots usually are portrayed in the light that, hey, they're going to take over what humans are doing on Earth. They're going to fight humans and fight humans to the death. However, this scenario, this apocalyptic scenario, I don't think it's real, and first of all, I think it's not based on history or data. If we first look at history, there are already 4 industrial revolutions. Before each of the industrial revolutions, starting from the 18th century, people were afraid of what technology can do. People thought that steam powering factories and machines actually cutting and shaping metal tools is something to be afraid of. However, these same people, in a few years, realized that these inventions are actually helping them improve the standard of their lives, helping their lives be better. Furthermore, if we look back in years at the 2nd and 3rd industrial revolutions, when, for instance, agricultural jobs fell in the 1900s, new jobs were created. Same when in the 1950s, jobs in factories were declining, or in Romania or in post-communist countries in the 1980s and 1990s. These jobs in factories were replaced by the jobs we do today, knowledge work, using our heads, not our physics, to do the job. But what I'm trying to say with this is that throughout history, humans were afraid of technology, but it didn't kill us. We're still here and we're doing better than in any other time in history. Also, data says the same thing. Data says the utopian scenario with robots killing humans is not possible, or even replacing them. Because only 5% of today's jobs, the jobs we have, can be replaced by automation with the technology existing today. However, McKinsey, the global institute which did this research, also said that yes, actually, only 5% of jobs will be totally replaceable, but 60% of jobs can have a task or more than one task that is replaced. 30% of such tasks can be automated as of tomorrow. So what McKinsey is trying to say in a nutshell is that your job is safe. You will still have a job tomorrow, but probably the way you do your job, it's going to change dramatically in the next 10 to 15 years. This image says a lot, and I searched the internet to find such an image because I think it's one of the few images, if you Google robots and robots and humans, that is actually positive, that is showing that we can actually work together. And this is also my vision. I believe in the future, the advent of AI, automation, and robots, it's not something to worry us, but actually a chance for us to work together with robots and build on each other's strengths. Because if you think at it quite pragmatically, robots are better than humans at collecting data, at interpreting data, or at doing very high volume and repetitive jobs. However, robots are no match for humans' dexterity or senses. Also, what robots are failing to do is to actually tackle new situations. If you give a robot a new task that he has no data to learn from, he's stuck. He needs data to learn. Obviously, humans need data as well, and it's always better to base your decisions on data. But because of evolution, humans have been trained to be able to think and act without data. So again, I can assure you all that the jobs of the future of business strategists or marketing campaign strategists will still be performed by humans. But potentially, as the picture says, we might actually work together with robots to enhance our skills. So some key takeaways from this first part of my presentation, which gives you a bit of context about what AI can do. First of all, AI, like any other technology, it's not morally good or bad. It's what we make of it, how we use it. Because robots, they don't create themselves. Humans create robots. So we have to guide innovation ethically and responsibly. Second point, widespread automation is unavoidable. It's going to happen. But we shouldn't be afraid of it because it will actually not replace our jobs, but just change some of the tasks we do. And sometimes actually for the better. It will free us of repetitive work, of work with data, numbers. It will allow us to work jobs which are more pleasant, more based on our creative skills or management skills. And last but not least, humans will have to work with robots, not compete with them. So we have to build our skills, not just digital skills, but also soft skills to be able to work with other humans coordinating robots. And speaking of skills, there's a skill gap in the world. By 2020, the first chapter of the fourth industrial revolution will be almost over. Inventions like robotics, autonomous driving, or super intelligent AI will come for the first part of their development. They'll have a first milestone. We will see jobs disappearing, jobs being replaced by other new jobs, and other jobs being just completely changed from their core. However, and this is going back to what I said initially with the questions, what will happen to our jobs? Well, research says that there will not be a shortage of jobs in the future, but rather just shortage of skills to perform these jobs. Technology has been changing all sectors, not just the tech sector. Education has been also changed by new developments in technology. First of all, the curriculum of many universities and schools is changing. If you see here, 50% of the subject knowledge taught in the first year of a four-year subject, technical subject, is going to be outdated by the time the software engineer graduates. In other words, if you study a specific coding language, it might be outdated in 4 years. Even more shocking is that if some of you have kids in elementary school, 65% of the jobs we're preparing our kids today don't exist. So it's actually quite of a paradox. We're preparing kids today for jobs which don't exist. So there's a first questions to ask ourselves is, what sort of careers will these kids do? But even more importantly, and for this we can actually do something today, is what skills will these kids need to perform these jobs? And before actually describing exactly the skills, I want to leave you with this quote and share a bit of my recent research regarding education. And it's something I think most of you know. There's a gap in education. The skills we learn in school in Moldova, in Romania, and in other parts of the world are not in accordance to what's needed in the job market. The gap is widening because between the supply and the demand. Schools in today's emerging markets especially are still teaching students using an outdated approach, an approach focused on preparing students for jobs in agriculture, manufacturing, jobs which are already being performed mostly by robots. This outdated approach is dying, and luckily and fortunately there's new schools in today's world which are using a different approach, an approach I highly recommend. This approach is called project-based, so you don't give students assignments to do individually, no. You put them together in teams to collaborate, to communicate, to problem solve. And after they come together with a solution, they have to present it in front of their class, to debate with their class. So these actually, if you put a project-based approach in any school in today's world, you can develop the soft skills young people will need in the future. Also very importantly, these new age schools, as I like to call them, have an education based on the individual needs of each individual. Because I, for instance, learn better by looking at images. I'm a visual person. Maybe somebody else in the class is an audible person. He likes to listen to information. So education in the future should be tailored to the learning needs of each individual. And now I'm going to go back to this quote because I really liked it when I first found it online. Because this sort of schools I just described now, the new age schools, they set the stage for what educational institutions should be all about. A place where instead of teaching students to answer questions, we teach them to ask them. A place where instead of preparing people for college or university or for jobs, we prepare people to become better leaders, better innovators, better people at the end of the day. Because by doing so, by not just preparing people for university or the workplace, we're not just changing the future of work or the future of education, we're changing the world we live in, step by step. And I'm not just talking visionary things. There are countries in today's world which are already doing something in this direction. One of them is Finland, a country you all know is famous for its educational system, and they pledged that by 2020, so in a few years, they will focus all their educational curriculum in primary and elementary education on these 4 skills, the 4 C's as they call them. Communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. Some similarity with the skills I described with project-based work. These are the skills you will need, the 4 soft skills you will need to be able to become successful in the future, because we live in a volatile world in which the job market is changing on a yearly basis. But if you have these transferable soft skills, you'll be fine. However, it's not enough. You need 3 other skills that complement these 4 ones. First one is adaptability. You cannot be successful if you don't know how to adapt to different situations in today's world. Second is resilience or grit, to be able to overcome adversity and still be successful. And last but not least, which I believe is the most important, having a mindset of continuous learning. What do I mean by continuous learning? It means that when you're 24, your education doesn't stop. Your education continues throughout your life. It also means that you don't go to university to get a diploma. No, you go to university to get some skills, because employers are increasingly seeing diplomas as not being so valuable, because nowadays with online education you can get diplomas from Harvard or Oxford by sitting on your sofa, if you're smart enough obviously, in your room. So the cost of education is decreasing. You can get a diploma, but employers want skills. That's what they want. And lastly, what's also changing is that employers nowadays, or people nowadays, they don't have just one employer. They change jobs throughout their life. So now careers are not like a ladder, careers are like a jungle. So all of us have to become more of a Tarzan or Jane than the typical traditional career following person. And to sum up, some key takeaways regarding this skills part. First, and really importantly, there will not be a shortage of jobs, but a shortage of skills to perform these jobs. So this is something to really remember. Second, preparing students for this new world means that we have to revolutionize education, not just reform it. We have to revolutionize not just secondary education, but primary education, even kindergarten education if possible, because it's not the way it should be for the 21st century. And last but not least, schools cannot prepare people for the careers of the future. It's really difficult. But they can equip them with the transferable skills they will need in order to become more successful individuals. And to sum up, and to conclude in a way, I think history taught us that technological changes are beneficial for humans. But history also told us that when the times are changing, the time to act is now. So what I encourage everybody here in this room to do is start equipping yourself with new skills every day. Start developing a mindset of continuous learning. And if there's one thing that you can take from my talk today, and if it'll be enough for me, is that learning doesn't stop when you're 24. Learning is for life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, if anyone has a question, please step to the front. You touched on education towards the end of your talk, and while you were speaking, I was thinking about all the changes that are happening to all of us. And you know, we're kind of forced to live in this world now. It's very hard to be disconnected from everything. And the guys before this were talking about Instagram, and I was thinking that, you know, it's very appealing, maybe not in Moldova, not so much in Moldova, but in a lot of countries, especially bigger countries with a lot of celebrities and the cult of the celebrity. It's very appealing to young preteens even to, you know, become an Instagram model or start a YouTube channel or do something to become famous. That way you don't really need to go to a university. You don't really need to do anything. You can drop out of high school and make $20,000-$30,000 a month just by making, like, posting pictures of your new Nikes on Instagram. And this trend is growing bigger and bigger in the last few years. Do you think that will affect the future of what we call today education? Because everything that you know right now about AI and about everything you talked today, I don't think you learned that at a university. You did that by yourself, didn't you?
Very good question. And obviously we're at a digital event when we spoke with influencers before in the panel. I mean, you did. But I think these people who are vloggers today, for instance, or Instagrammers, they're developing really good transferable skills. What they don't have to do, and I hope they are not doing this mistake, is that they cannot count that vlogging will be a job in 10 years. Maybe vlogging will be performed by robots. So what I recommend them to do, as I did mention in my talk, is that you always need a backup plan. You always need to develop new skills as a backup. Because in the future, we're all going to be freelancers. Even if I'm maybe a corporate guy, on the side I should start developing a passion which I can monetize so I can have a backup in case the industry I'm working in goes bad. Same with vlogging. I think they should have a backup plan or think about how they can transfer those skills in another domain. And I think this is what's going to happen.
And a follow-up question to that. I'm sorry, Aaron. A follow-up question to that. So, in the same topic, do you think universities and academies and teaching institutions, do you think they will survive? Because it seems that everything is online and you can take a course on photography from any Leibowitz and you can learn. That the point of a university was to go someplace where someone would teach you something and then they would verify if you actually learned it and give you a piece of paper that said, this person knows this and this and this, we taught him. Now you learn all of this online, and as you said, employers don't really ask for a diploma. If you're a programmer, they want to see your code, you know? Do you think that universities will survive?
I think universities have been along for quite some time, and I think they will learn to reinvent themselves, and they're already doing this. Just to give a bit of an added point on what I said, diplomas will still count, especially if you studied at Harvard or Oxford, if it's a big brand. This will not be changed too soon, because we still live in a world of brands. However, I think Harvard and Oxford and other Ivy League schools are starting to realize that they should not just focus on bachelor's and master's so much, but focus on continuous learning. Because as I said, people will still invest in education, and online, as much as it's good for you, still online, I don't think at this point, it doesn't replace human interaction, and the way you can teach me a skill it's much better for me, at least this is how I learn, if I see you, if I can interact with you, ask you questions, not via a less personal video chat or video webinar or something. So I believe still educational institutions will have a place, and hopefully they know they have to reinvent themselves to secure this place.
I have more questions about that, but I'll catch you at lunch.
Cool.
Aaron?
Hi. So you talk a lot about the skills gap, and the solution for AI is to learn how to do things that AI can't. Where do you see the solution for the abilities gap, people who aren't able to learn the skills and keep adapting and adapting and adapting for the next 30, 40 years?
This is a good question, but even more difficult one, because I don't have an answer to this. I mean, it's an answer I think we should all look for. Some people use the UBI, the Universal Basic Income, as a solution for people who are maybe factory workers now at 40 years old, who if they're going to lose the job to a robot, it's harder to reskill them. So I don't have a solution. What I do suggest, though, is that companies which have a direct interest in the benefit of the countries in which they operate, they should invest more in CSR practices that reskill people. So not just invest in reskilling their employees, which they're already doing, but invest in reskilling the people in the countries where they operate. I think companies should have a bigger responsibility in today's future, or even today's present, I would say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.